All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. So it is officially April, which means the draft is less than a month away, and the Las Vegas Raiders have the 13th pick in the first round. And you've got a couple of quarterbacks on your roster: Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew. We know they need another cornerback. We know they could use some offensive tackle help. But the question is, and will be for the next 3 weeks, until the Raiders actually, or until the draft happens, the Raiders actually do or don't select a quarterback, is are the Raiders taking a quarterback, or are they going to run it through with Aiden O'Connell for another season and then back up kind of bridge QB and Gardner Minshew, the veteran guy in the locker room? So the reason I'm making this video here is because I saw a analyst, and I of course forgot to write down who it was, but he said this quote exactly: "Now is not the time for the Raiders to draft a QB. You have other holes that you need to fill." And I don't think you could be more wrong. Now, when I say that, I mean the second half of that statement. Now is not the time for the Raiders to draft a QB. That's up for our own opinions, right? I think the Raiders could certainly use another quarterback, Michael Penix, Bo Nix. I would be happy with that. I would love a JJ McCarthy. I would absolutely die for a Jaden Daniels. But I don't think the second half of that sentence is correct in any way, shape, or form. You have other holes you need to fill. The thing with that is you can say that with all other 31 teams in the National Football League. And yes, they could use another tackle, and they could use one of these first round picks on a tackle. They could use one of these first round picks on a lockdown cornerback. But at the end of the day, man, the Raiders actually have a really good roster. And that's why we saw, even though they had Jimmy Garoppolo starting week 1 for them last season, and we saw Mike McDaniels, that would be awesome, Josh McDaniels be the head coach for the Raiders for the first half of the season, the last year and a half, and they still went 8-9. And they were a couple of games away from actually making the playoffs in the loaded division that the West is. But before we get the West, AFC, geez, man, we don't have it today. I apologize. I'm a little bit under the weather, but hope you guys are having a great day. Hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily Raiders content. Raiders fans, love you guys as always. If you're trying to get this video to 250 likes, that would mean the absolute world to me. So every team always has a hole to fill. They always have holes to fill. And they can draft a tackle in a different round. They can trade back. They could trade up. They could do a whole bunch of different things. But the point is this: I don't feel great with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew being my 2 quarterbacks to go with next season, because Gardner Minshew is more of a bridge guy, and Aiden O'Connell is good. And that's like the whole issue is he had 8 touchdowns, 0 interception in his final 4 games in his rookie season. 4th round draft pick out of Purdue. Once again, he started the season with Josh McDaniels being the head coach, and they went through so much turmoil in the first half of the season that it's hard to really gauge Aiden O'Connell, because we only saw him for half a season. He went 5-5 as the starter, and once again, man, you're in the AFC and you're playing Patrick Mahomes twice a year, and you're playing Justin Herbert twice a year. And I think 5-5 for a 4th round rookie QB who didn't start the first half of the season, I think that's very impressive. And I think he looked very impressive at numerous different occasions. But once again, is Aiden O'Connell your long-term franchise quarterback? I don't particularly think the odds are great there. I know Gardner Minshew certainly isn't my quarterback for the long term. So if you can get Michael Penix in the 2nd round, if you can get Michael Penix in the early 2nd round, late 1st, if you have to trade up for it, I do think that's something that they should look into. And I know that they are looking into. We keep hearing Antonio Pierce. We keep hearing Tom Telesco. We keep reading all these rumors and all these reports that the Raiders are still making calls and trying to gauge like the trade value and what they're going to have to give up. Folks, I don't think they're going to get Jaden Daniels. I don't think they're going to get Drake May, and they're definitely not going to get Caleb Williams. I also don't think they're going to get JJ McCarthy. But you're going to see a team, whether it's the Seattle Seahawks, the Minnesota Vikings, or the Denver Broncos, come into the top 4, top 5, and swoop away JJ. And it wouldn't shock me if it was Las Vegas. I just don't think they're going to do it. And if you're sitting here saying the trade package would be too much, I think it's the opposite, man. You're going to give up the 13th pick. You're going to give up next year's 1st. You're maybe going to give up next year's 2nd. But you have your quarterback for hopefully the next decade. So I get it. You're giving up a couple of firsts. Maybe you're throwing in a 2nd or a 3rd round draft pick to trade up into the top 10 or the top 5 or whatever you think. But at the end of the day, in the long run, if he is the guy, I don't think that's bad in any way, shape, or form. At the end of the day, man, the Raiders offense is still quite loaded to me. And I know they still need, right tackle or whatever. And I know they lost Josh Jacobs, but I really liked what I saw from Zamir White in the final month of the season when Josh Jacobs went down with an injury and he ran it as the starting running back. They're still going to draft a running back, but you picked up Alexander Mattison and kind of a low risk, high reward type of signing there. We take a little bit deeper of a dive, and what do I see? I see Davante Adams, a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL. Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, these guys are really good. Davante Adams, I get it. He's getting a little up there in age. You still have 2 to 3 years for sure. 100,000% of Davante Adams being at worst a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. So if I were the Raiders, and you also got Jacoby Myers, you got Trey Tucker coming off an intriguing rookie season where he averaged almost 18 yards per catch. Michael Mayer, who was severely underutilized in the Josh McDaniels system, he's entering year 2, early draft pick from last year's class. The Raiders' offense and defense, led with Antonio Pierce, that was a top 10 unit in the second half of the season when Antonio Pierce was the interim head coach. You picked up Christian Wilkins. You still have Max Crosby. You've got some intriguing depth all across the board. They're a playoff caliber team. And the question now becomes, is it going to be Aiden O'Connell or is it going to be a rookie QB? And so what I would do if I were the Raiders, if I can't trade up for J.J. McCarthy in the top 5 and I can't trade up for Jaden Daniels in the top 5 because it's going to take an arm and a leg, but you also have all these other teams trying to get them. And at the end of the day, man, I don't know why Washington wouldn't want Drake May. I don't know why the Patriots wouldn't want Drake May or Jaden Daniels. So what I would do is you're going to gauge how the first 10 picks go. And if you fall to pick number 8, 9, or 10, or whatever it is, and your quarterback's still on the board, whether it's Bo Nix, whether it's Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, et cetera, I'd trade up and get him, or you sit back, you relax, and you see if a Michael Penix is still available at pick number 13. Depends on what mock draft you read. I've seen Michael Penix be a top 10 pick. I've seen him go to the Raiders at pick 13. I've seen teams trade up for him around the top 10 to select him. I've also seen him go in the late first. I've seen him go in the early second. I've seen him be a third round QB. I think Michael Penix, Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew battling it out in camp, I think that's a recipe for success. And let's just say Aiden O'Connell is the guy and he beats out your rookie QB, Michael Penix, or whoever it is. Well, you'll run with it for the season. And if it works, it works. Awesome. No issues. If it doesn't work, all right, well, now I've got a young rookie quarterback who just sat back and relaxed and learned NFL, learned everything, and learned what it meant to be as a quarterback on an NFL roster. And then you deploy that for the next season, right? So I think the Raiders are in a really good spot when it comes to the quarterback position. I would like another young rookie body, whether it's round 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, to come in and compete with Gardner Minshew and AOC. So that's it for me. Hit that like button, hit that sub button for Daily Raiders concept, guys. Let me know what you're doing with the quarterback